As we embark on the Great Canadian Farm Tour, it is important to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes and honors the enduring presence of the diverse Indigenous communities across Canada, including the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We acknowledge the deep connection that Indigenous peoples have to the land, waters, resources, and all of agriculture. We express our gratitude for their stewardship and custodianship of these lands for generations. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes that acknowledging the traditional territories we reside and work on is only a small step towards reconciliation. We ask that we all continue to learn more about the Indigenous peoples in these regions, to consider the history and ongoing colonialism on this land, to reflect on how each of us can contribute to reconciliation. Hello, bonjour. Welcome everyone to our next stop on Season 3 of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. We are so excited to have everyone join us today from across Canada. My name is Mercedes Unwin from Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and I will be your MC for today. Before we get started, we just want to provide a few reminders. For those who want to follow along in French, please use the Interprify link provided in the chat to access the interpreting and closed captioning services provided for this event. We ask that everyone is mindful that this is an educational event, so inappropriate conduct happening in the chat, such as spamming and improper comments, will not be tolerated. Throughout the tour, we welcome you to post your questions in the chat to get them answered. We will answer as many questions as possible. The mystery word for your student activity books will appear at the end of this episode, so please stick around. Finally, we would love to know where everyone is joining us from. Please comment in the chat your school and location. Now, we would like to welcome our next tour host of the Great Canadian Farm Tour, Tom of Trueman Blueberry Farms in New Brunswick. So say hello, Tom, to everyone. We just brought you in.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Trueman, and I run Trueman Blueberry Farms in Allac, New Brunswick.
Thanks for joining us today, Tom. So before we get started, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an 8th generation farmer, and our primary crop that we grow on our farm are wild blueberries. We also have honeybees, and we grow a few other crops, and we have a retail operation where we invite the public to come join us at our farm and try some of the products that we grow and also that we make here in the farm.
Oh, wonderful. So we're going to see a little bit about some of your production today, but I know we're going to get started with learning a little bit more about your blueberry fields. So I know we couldn't be out there in person just because of the internet connection. So we're going to get started with showing our first video.
How are you today? Tom Trueman here, Trueman Blueberry Farms. Looking forward to chatting with you a little later on. Here we are out in one of our wild blueberry fields. As you can see, wild blueberries are only very short to the ground, 4 or 5 inches tall, 20 centimeters or so. We're early spring here right now. The berries are almost in bloom. So another couple of weeks, this field will be nice, full of blueberry blossoms, pink and blues and white. We'll have honeybees in here for pollination, and we'll pick millions and millions of little delicious blueberries off of this field.
Oh, so what a wonderful introduction to blueberry harvesting and production. Tom, can you tell us a little bit more about what it takes to be a blueberry farmer?
Well, like all farmers, we tend to work a lot of hours at odd times. Blueberries are an interesting crop. We harvest our blueberries every second year on each field. So it takes 1 year to grow the plant, and 1 year, the next year, the plant produces berries. So it's a 2-year production cycle, which is a little unusual in the agricultural industry. Normally, you plant a crop in the spring and harvest it later that year, whereas this crop we manage for a complete 2-year cycle.
Okay, wonderful. And I see a question right here that might be a really good one and it'll be thrown up for the screen for everybody to see, but what is the difference between wild blueberries and other types of blueberries?
So they're all part of the same family, Wild blueberries tend to be, they grow in mostly northern latitudes, and they can be found in, many parts of the world, but they're only cultivated or managed commercially in eastern Canada, northern United States. Uh, you can find them elsewhere, but this is really the only place that they're a large commercial production.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for answering that question. That was Madame Boker's question. So let's answer another question, Tom, and then we'll have you tell us a little bit more about blueberry farming. So let's just throw one up on the screen for everyone to see. Wonderful. So Ruth is asking what kind of things you make with your blueberries at your farm. And maybe you'll do a little bit of a hint and then we can see a little bit more later.
Sure. So we do all of the traditional things: pies, muffins, cakes, jams, um, and various sauces and that type of thing. We also make a special treat that we use a lot of blueberries in, which we're going to show you in a few minutes, but I'll keep that as a surprise for you.
Okay, wonderful. So Tom, tell us a little bit more about the process of in a yearly basis of going and looking after your blueberries and then going through the harvest season with them.
So from a seasonal point of view, this is we're coming up on pollination season in May. So usually late May, early June, the the bushes produce flowers, and each flower can be a blueberry if it's properly pollinated. So right now we're getting our bees ready so that they're in good shape to go to the blueberry fields in the next couple of weeks. Uh, After they'll stay in the blueberry fields for 2 to 3 weeks. The blooms, hopefully we get good weather, the blooms get pollinated, and then the bloom will then turn into a berry, and it takes till early August for that berry to ripen. We'll start our commercial harvest, the end of the first week of August to the middle of August, and it'll continue for another 3 weeks after that. So we get very busy from the 10th of August through to the 3rd or 4th of September, after which we hope to have the crop all harvested and sent to our, either sold fresh or taken to our to the buyers who freeze it. Most of the wild blueberry production ends up as frozen product that you would find in grocery stores or in products like yogurt or muffins or pies, etc. So that's
Well,
kind of our season.
oh, well, I think you mentioned a really great part of it that we can learn a little bit more about, which is pollination. So let's just bring up our video around pollination to dive a little bit deeper around what that means for your blueberries.
Okay. Welcome back, boys and girls. We are now in one of our honeybee yards where our honeybees spend the spring getting ready to go to our blueberry fields. One of the most important parts of the production cycle of wild blueberries and other fruit is pollination. And we use honeybees, which we have here on our farm and manage, to do that job. So they make the blueberries, but they also make honey for us. So we get a nice sweet treat, and we get lots of blueberries. So if you look behind me, you can see all kinds of beehives and bees flying around the air, and they'll be getting ready to go to work here in the next few weeks.
Okay, wonderful. So maybe we'll bring in another question from our students to learn a little bit more about your blueberries. So Nate wants to know, how many honeybees do you have?
Depends on the year, but we typically have between 400 and 1,000 hives, and each hive would have between 25 and 60,000 bees in it if they're in good shape. So it's as you may have heard on the news, keeping bees is getting more challenging over the last few years. So we work really hard to make sure that our hives are very strong and have lots of bees in them. Some of these blueberry fields will have 300,000 or 400,000 blossoms per acre. So that's, an acre is about 4 times what your average city house sits on. So there's a lot of blossoms there. Each blossom requires the bee to visit 2 to 3 times to get it pollinated properly. So it takes a lot of bees to do the job well.
Oh, wow. So you're very dependent on them to make sure that you have a really successful blueberry harvest. So it's wonderful to see how you work so well with other areas such as honey too. So let's bring up another question, and then we'll be soon going to our brain break. And then following that, Tom will take us on a little bit of a tour of his facility. So this next question from Donna is, how long does it take for the bees to rest for pollinating? And this is specifically from Parker.
So if you've heard the little saying, busy as a bee, bees are busy. That they don't work after dark, but they fly as soon as the temperature gets to it being warm enough. So probably 14 or 15 degrees Celsius, they'll start flying, and they'll fly right until it gets almost dark at night. And they work 7 days a week, every day until there's the weather isn't acceptable for them to work. So they don't really rest. They just work when the weather is appropriate for them to do so.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that question. And we'll do one more question, and then we'll be heading into our commercial break. So our final question for this part is, how many blueberries does your farm produce? And this is from Aaliyah in grade 4.
I've never actually done the math on how many individual berries, but we would produce on average at the end of the year probably 100 tractor trailer loads of berries a year.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. And does it take a whole crew, Tom, to be able to produce all of these berries and look after everything? Outside of the honeybees, of course.
So it takes about four people working through the season to get the crop growing properly, and then to get it harvested. Harvest is the busiest time.
Oh, wow. So definitely it's a team effort. So we will be back in 1 minute, and then Tom will be taking us around on a tour, and you'll be seeing some of the hidden treats that he mentioned earlier on. So see you in 1 minute.
Okay.
So we are back with Tom, who's going to be taking us on our tour. I will be leaving, but I'll be back every now and then to ask some great questions coming in from our students across Canada. So Tom, I'll hand the reins over to you for our surprise.
Okay, so we are in our production room and our retail operation where we make ice cream. And one of our favorite flavors of ice cream is blueberry ice cream, but we also use blueberries as a variegated in a couple other flavors of ice cream that we do. So today we are going to make maple blueberry ice cream. So we're going to use some local dairy and some local maple products, as well as some of our own blueberries that we put into the ice cream, which makes a very delicious treat. Our ice cream machine is over in the background. We're not going to have time to wait for it to finish, but we're going to go back out to the front and we'll scoop a cone of ice cream for you to have a look. But while we're doing that, if you have some questions, we can take those.
Wonderful. So we'll send a question up as we're doing this process. So just as a great question that's coming in from some of our students as we're navigating a little bit closer is Noah asks, how do you pick your blueberries? So how do you go around and go through all those bushes that are on the ground?
So we have several machines that do that, and I believe Mercedes has a picture of that she can pull up and show you what our harvester looks like. And it looks like a comb, a big giant comb, and it picks the berries up out of the ground and off the ground and puts them into big totes, which then we transport to the freezing plant. So we're going to go up front.
Wonderful. Thanks for answering that great question. And it was a really great question that came in on how you go through the process. So now we're just navigating. Tom, where are we heading right now?
So we're heading to the retail operation where we scoop the ice cream. So if you come to visit us at our farm, you're going to find that we have 40 or 50 different flavors of ice cream. And every flavor that we have has some component that we grow on the farm, either fruit, blueberries, raspberries, rhubarb, or honey that our bees make. So we try and have a taste of our farm in everything we sell. So we're going to go out here, and Ruth is going to scoop us a cone of blueberry ice cream. She doesn't know that yet, but
well, extend our thanks to Ruth as she's scooping. Can we get a close-up of all the ice creams?
Sure. Amanda will give you a look at all the different flavors of ice cream.
Now, as Amanda's giving us a close-up, Tom, why did you start doing the ice cream production in addition to the blueberries?
So, like all businesses, there's production of blueberries is cyclical. Some years we have really good crops and good prices, and some years we have poorer crops and poorer prices. So we wanted to diversify our business so that we had revenue coming in from different sources that would make it easier for us to survive the long term. So we started selling ice cream as part of our diversification program. So now we welcome about 130,000 people a year to our farm to try our homemade ice cream.
And we have a great question from Allison and her class. They're wondering what is the most popular flavor. And we just saw a great close-up of that blueberry ice cream.
So blueberry would be our number 3, probably. Our most common, our popular flavor is salted caramel, which we make the caramel here on site, and we use honey in the ice cream as well. So it has a significant component that we raise here on the farm.
Wonderful. I'm seeing some great questions coming in the chat. One specifically that stood out to me from Alex is, how is blueberry ice cream made? So you kind of showed us a machine, but how is it done?
So if you have an old style ice cream maker at home, it's very similar to that. So we take dairy, cream, and different ingredients, flavoring, but primarily for blueberry, we put about 20% of the ice cream is actually blueberries that we cook up into a sauce, and then we pour that right into the dairy, and then we freeze it. And when it comes out of the freezer, we put it into these big tubs, and then we can scoop it for our customers.
Wonderful. That was a great question from Alex. And we have another great question is, some of our students have been to your farm for ice cream, and this is coming from Northport class, grades 4, 5, and 6. So thank you for doing that little shout out. Thank you. We're happy to have you with us. And I'm just seeing a bunch of other comments, and a lot of people are saying our mouths are watering. Specifically, Danielle said this. Now, going on to another question, let's bring one up so you can tell us a little bit more about blueberries. So Madame Boker's class is, why are some blueberries sour?
Well, that's a good question. Some blueberries, depending on whether they're the longer they're on the plant, the more sugars they make, so they will be sweeter. Wild blueberries, as compared to cultivated blueberries that you might see in the grocery store that come from other countries or other parts of Canada that are grown on the tall plants, Some of those varieties just aren't as sweet, but usually it's just the timing of the fruit and the type of berry it is. The wild blueberries tend to have a higher concentration of sugar than cultivated blueberries.
Wonderful. What a great answer to that question, and thank you for asking it. Oh, Tom, let's just take us a little bit more around the room that you're in right now. So is this specifically where you have different people come visit your farm and they come see ice cream? Do they see anything else while they're on your farm?
Sure. Well, we're going to take you out to our observation beehive. So if you want to follow me along.
And as you're walking, Tom, I'll ask you another question.
Sure. I'll walk backwards so I can be in the frame here.
So we'll populate another question up here. So Tristan wants to know how big wild blueberries get.
They tend to be the size smaller than a marble, bigger than like a grain. They're probably 3 to 6 millimeters across, somewhere in that size, maybe a little bigger. But they're, as compared to the cultivated blueberries that are probably twice that size. So they're small, but we'll see if we can find a sample for you actually if you want. But meanwhile, we're going to just I'll show you our observation hive, Amanda. So if you have a look, you can see some of the bees working around in there. These ones are they don't actually work for a living, other than to be here for people to have a look at and to educate themselves as to what honeybees look like. But we'll see if we can find you some blueberries now that I can show you for size comparison. So these are some frozen berries that we harvested last year, and you can see that they're quite small relative to the size of a strawberry or a grape or whatever.
Thanks for sharing that. And I see a great question in the chat. Where do blueberries get their color from? This is from
Now
Julie. And the tricky questions.
so this is a word that I'll try to pronounce, but the blue color comes from anthocyanins, I believe is the way to say it, but it's the pigment that's in the skin of the blueberry. So if you cut a blueberry in half, it's actually white in the middle, but the skin itself is that nice purple flesh color. And that's where all the health benefits of blueberries, or a lot of the health benefits of blueberries, come in, from those antioxidants or whatever that make up that purple color.
Wonderful. That is a tricky word, and I probably would not have said it any better than you did, Tom. So we have a few more minutes left. So Tom, is there anything, I want to make sure that we covered everything you wanted to show. Is there anything else you want to show the students from across Canada?
I think we're limited to being inside today, so we can't. I'll tell you a little bit about more of the farm though while we're waiting.
Perfect.
We not only do we have the blueberries in the retail shop, but we also grow tulips as part of our tulip festival, which is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. We have a train that we take to the blueberry fields, and customers can ride to have a look at the farm. We have other activities that people can enjoy when they come to visit us, and we try to show them different parts of the farm and what's going on. We also grow some raspberries as you pick, and we have rhubarb. So if those types of fruit, if you like those, you can come and see those as well.
And that kind of leads us into some really great questions. So one of those great questions from Laura is, how do you keep birds or other animals from eating them?
Well, everybody likes blueberries. Birds can be certainly a significant nuisance when it comes to blueberry production, as well as bears and other animals. We try to encourage animals not to eat our blueberries. It's sometimes significantly easier said than done. in small fields, we can net to keep birds out. That tends to be cost prohibitive for what we're doing. Um, you, you It depends on where the fields are. Like if fields are close to the ocean, we can get a lot of seagulls. So sometimes we'll use scaring devices. We'll put flags and we'll put pie pans out that reflect the light. Different ways to try and encourage them not to want to settle on the fields and eat. But they really do like blueberries. So it's a kind of it's a losing battle some years.
Well, it sounds like you have some great plans in place to try to mitigate or reduce the likelihood that you have little animals coming in to try to eat them. We have time for a few more questions, so we'll do two more. And this one's coming from Raylan. And Raylan asks, do you love blueberries and what is your favorite way to eat them?
I love blueberries. Yes, I do. I've always liked blueberries right from the time my first job that I ever had was picking blueberries. And I particularly like blueberry pie, although blueberry ice cream is a very close second to my favorite way to have blueberries.
Wonderful. I think a bunch of us do share that love for blueberries, and I do love blueberry pie too. My mom makes a fantastic one. And let's do our final question for today. And Kimberly would like to know how many acres or fields do you have designated to all of your productions, whether it be blueberries and the tulips and the strawberries and other things that you grow?
So we have a couple thousand acres on the farm, but there's a few hundred that are blueberries, and we have 5 or 10 that are set up for raspberries, an acre and a bit of tulips, and then we have land that's set aside, just as woodland and as unfarmed for, so that we leave it available for animals and just natural beauty, etc.
Wonderful. And I may have lied a little and said this was your last question, but I really saw one that I really like. And this is from Ashley. And Ashley wants to know, what is a fun fact people don't know about blueberries? Not like an uncommon fun fact.
Oh, now so here's a fun fact. If you take a blueberry and open it up and you see the seeds inside, some will have 5 seeds, some will have 10 seeds, some will have 30 or 40. The number of seeds that are inside a blueberry is related to how well the blueberry blossom was pollinated during pollination season. So every part of the pollen turns into a seed. So when the bee visits the bloom, if they do a really good job, you get a lot of seeds in the blueberry. And then the berry gets bigger because the plant wants to grow the berry big enough to support the number of seeds that are inside.
Now, that is a really good fun fact. And that was specifically Jackson who was asking that from Ashley's class. So I know we've kind of covered off some really great, amazing things, and there's always more to know. But Tom, are there any final words you'd like to share with all the students joining us from across Canada?
Well, just that it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and I hope that I've helped you learn a little bit about blueberries. Please look for them in the stores. They're a very healthy snack. They freeze well, uh, and they're good in all kinds of stuff. Um, Also, support your local farmers. They're working hard to provide good, healthy food for you, and it's a passion for people in agriculture are doing it. It's a labor of love that most farmers have to provide and produce good quality food.
Well, that's some great words, Tom. And thank you for joining us today, Tom. And thank you to everyone across Canada who's joining us today. I know I learned something new, so I really value your time and everyone's time today. Before we close off this episode, and thank you for waiting patiently, I am excited to share the mystery word for today is food or alimentaire. So again, the mystery word for today is food or alimentaire, which is a really great word for today's tour since we saw some ice cream and blueberries. Thank you. And our next stop will be next week on May 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at a dairy farm in Newfoundland. So goodbye for now, everyone. Goodbye, Tom. Thank you for joining us. And we'll just wave to everyone and hope everyone has a great day.
Bye now.